I now have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for the evening. Thane Rosenbaum is an essayist, law professor, author of 5 award-winning novels. His articles, reviews, and essays appear frequently in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, CNN, Haaretz, Huffington Post, and Daily Beast, among other national publications. He serves as the legal analyst for CBS News Radio, legal and Middle East analyst for Newsmax, and a columnist for the Los Angeles Jewish Journal. Professor Rosenbaum moderates an annual series of discussions on culture, world events, and politics at the 92nd Street Y, called The Talk Show. He's a distinguished university professor at Touro College, where he directs the Forum on Life, Culture, and Society. He's also the author of Saving Free Speech from Itself, Payback, The Case for Revenge, and The Myth of Moral Justice, Why Our Legal System Fails to Do What's Right. He's the editor of the anthology Law Lit, From Atticus Finch to the Practice, a collection of great writing about the law. After Professor Rosenbaum's remarks, we're going to have 2 of our Loyola Marymount University Jewish Studies students respond, so we can also get the thoughtful reflections of our student body of a different generation as well. Jonathan Amiri, our first student respondent, is an LMU junior English major and a Jewish studies minor. Our second respondent, Taryn Drummond, is an LMU senior, graduating with a major in English and a minor in Jewish studies also. So we'll start with Professor Rosenbaum, and then we'll go directly to Jonathan Amiri and then Taryn Drummond, and then we'll be back. Thane, it's all up to you now.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much, Holly. It is Yom HaShoah, so I suspect it's totally inappropriate to begin by saying I'm happy to be here, because happy is not the right word anytime to use on a day like today. But I am happy to be here. I was summoned here by Professor Holly Levitsky, the wondrous Holly Levitsky, who is a longtime friend, and I pretty much do whatever she tells me to do. I also feel like I have a long-standing relationship with Loyola. I think I was scheduled to appear here last year live before the pandemic, and I know I've spoken to her classes and done readings here. So I feel very welcome here. So I'm pleased to be here on such an inauspicious, otherwise mournful day. I thought I would start off by reading you something that I have read law students in my human rights class for nearly 30 years when I teach it. And it's from Primo Levi's Survival in Auschwitz, in my view, the best of the chronicles, memoirs of the Holocaust. And then we'll talk about what I think it means and why I think it's important to talk about it today in a day on Yom HaShoah, when we're also talking about human dignity and finding a way to discuss human dignity in the context of the Holocaust. So let me begin. And listen carefully. Treat yourself like law students. What would you say to a professor after he just read this to you? What do you think this means? Then for the first time, we became aware that our language lacks words to express this offense, the demolition of a man. In a moment with almost prophetic intuition, the reality was revealed to us. We had reached the bottom. It is not possible to sink lower than this. No human condition is more miserable than this, nor could it conceivably be so. Nothing belongs to us anymore. They have taken away our clothes, our shoes, even our hair. And if we speak, they will not listen to us. And if they listen, they will not understand. They will even take away our name. And if we want to keep it, we will have to find in ourselves the strength to do so, to manage somehow so that behind the name, something of us as we were, still remains. Imagine a man who is deprived of everyone he loves, and at the same time of his house, his habits, his clothes, in short, of everything he possesses. He will be a hollow man, reduced to suffering and needs, forgetful of dignity and restraint. For he who loses all often easily loses himself. So what does that mean? Well, the number 6 million has incredible iconic metaphorical symbolism around the world, and especially for Jews, and especially on a day like today. It can only mean one thing. What does 6 million mean? Everyone knows. 2 out of 3 Jews of Europe were killed. That's 6 million. But here's a thought experiment. What if, just a hypothetical, what if the Nazis had disenfranchised Jews, stripped them of civil rights, taken away their livelihoods and their professions, taken all their possessions as well, fully dehumanized them by replacing their names with a number on their arm, shaved their hair, separated them from their families, and then let everyone go. Killed nobody, not one. Everyone just goes, returns. Yes, their heads are shaved and they got to figure out what to do with their numbered arm, but no one's dead. Well, I think Primo Levi would say that is still genocide. That you don't actually, it's possible to have your vital signs, have low cholesterol, low blood pressure, and still be insufficiently alive. The death of the soul. That's what Levi's talking about. This is a memoir of mass murder, and I didn't read anything to you about death. I read to you about the demolition of a man. And he who loses everything easily loses himself. And there is a lesson there, something to think about. Dignity matters. It matters so much that if you take it away from people, it's like a death. It's not the same, of course, as a death, but it is a death. 1 out of every 3 Jews survived in Europe, but survived means, it's a very relative term. What does survival mean? I mean, yes, survival, but that's the paradox of people experiencing such things and then within 15 years driving a station wagon with little children to a Dairy Queen in their neighborhoods. How did they do that? How did they drive to a Dairy Queen after that, after such a short time? They did. But a large part of them was dead. It's interesting, though, when I say this, because I'm making it sound like dignity is really important, at least Primo Levi thinks so, and it is. But you happen to live in a country that has no interest in dignity at all. I don't know if you know this, but the word dignity does not appear in any of our founding documents, not once. Not in the Declaration of Independence, not in the United States Constitution. However, all throughout Europe, even in Israel, the Western democracies, all of which were inspired by the same enlightened philosophers of the 18th century. We all read the same books in the 18th century, Locke, Rousseau, Hume, Kant. And yet, everywhere throughout Europe, in Western democracies, dignity, the word dignity appears everywhere. In Germany's post-war constitution, I think it appears 9 times in the first few sections. They don't stop talking about it. And we don't talk about it at all. And so that's interesting. And there's a reason for that, is because we privilege liberty and freedom over other dignity rights. That's what we're interested in. Freedom and liberty. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of association, right? That's what our Bill of Rights are in. And in order to exercise those Bill of Rights, all of those, what I would call liberty rights or freedom rights, very often you would trample over the dignity of another human being. How do we know that? Well, Jews know that here. In 1977, the neo-Nazis decided they wanted to march in Skokie, Illinois. Most people don't know, it's an interesting anecdote. Skokie, Illinois in the 1970s had the highest percentage of per capita Holocaust survivors anywhere outside of Israel. Why were they there? I don't know, but they were there. They settled in Skokie. The Nazis knew exactly where to go. They didn't even want to go to Brooklyn. They wanted to go to Skokie. And they received a permit to go there. And the ACLU fought in the courts to get them the right to march through a community of Holocaust survivors and re-traumatize them, make them intimidated, strip them of the sense of tranquility that it means to be a citizen in good standing. The ACLU won that case. Guess what? All Jewish lawyers. All the Jewish lawyers represented the neo-Nazis in 1977. And if you speak to a lot of people even today, they think that case is a testament to the greatness of the United States. I would say it makes us look ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. I'd also tell you that in Germany, they didn't stop laughing at us in 1977. We were smugly, look at us, Jews representing Nazis. And the Germans who knew something about Nazis thought, what idiots, what boobs. That's what they think is the meaning of democracy. Just more recently, 2017, the March on Charlottesville. We know that the alt-right had one slogan. They were there apparently ostensibly for a statue to preserve a statue of Robert E. Lee, but they were chanting, "Jews will not replace us," wearing military fatigues and carrying tiki torches, clearly intending to send a message to Jews, don't feel so comfortable here. You shouldn't feel so comfortable. We're here. In fact, I remember the flyer in 1977 that was passed out by the neo-Nazis. Are you ready for this? We're coming to get you. We're coming to get you. Now, nobody killed any of the Jews in Skokie. In fact, the judges very smugly, in my view, just obnoxiously, in one of the decisions, right, well, maybe the Jews, I recognize the harm this will cause, but maybe they should just not go out that day. As if to say, the most important thing is the rights of the Nazis. The Jews who pay taxes in Skokie, they shouldn't go out this day. That's not a day for them to go out. But we really want to protect the rights of a bunch of clowns who don't live here. I'm sorry, I'm still laughing. It's so preposterous. As it was when the Charlottesville marchers also received the rights to march through lawsuits represented by pro bono lawyers, courtesy of the ACLU. Yet in Israel's basic laws, which is essentially their constitution, they don't even have the right to free speech. They have free speech in Israel, but they don't even enumerate it. But you know what they have? A right to dignity. And in France, there's a comedian, you could look him up. His name is Mbala Dieudonné. He's a riot. Ready? This is his act. He gets up on stage and he says, don't you think it's time that we should gas the Jews again? I think we really should. And then he names some Jews in France that he thinks would be good for gassing. And you know what happens after that? He gets arrested and he goes to jail. Of course. Of course. France believes in, and France is suffering from an enormous amount of anti-Semitism, but the law recognizes that. And every time he does that, he goes straight to jail. In the United States, he would be a First Amendment hero. He should come here. We would love him here, but not in any other country, not in Germany, not in any other country, certainly in Austria. You know, they recognize that human dignity matters and that we don't allow the free speech rights, even in democracy, to supersede, to trample under the profound sensibilities of the human dignity of another human being. The right to tranquility, dignity, equality, respect, mutual respect. What does it mean to be a citizen, right? Afforded the rights of citizenship. And this is not true just for Jews. I would say the same thing about towel heads go home or all Muslims are terrorists, right? These are acts of violence. They're not words. Primo Levi would know what they are. They would be stripping people of their citizenship, stripping them of their rights to feel safe and protected and cared for and appreciated as a fellow human being. You know, on campuses, you know, leaving a noose at the door of an African American. This is just barbarism. This is not free speech. This is not what a civil society should permit. And these are not political statements. These are not any contributions to the marketplace of ideas. Don't let anybody fool you. That is not an idea. There's no idea there. That's exactly why these cases succeed by courts. Courts always, again, they always privilege the speaker over the targeted victim, over the person that the speech is targeting. Always. And it's always because that right supersedes their feelings, their needs to feel safe. And you know why? Because we don't protect human dignity in the United States. We don't even know what it means. Again, also very true here, true nowhere else. Before we let our students jump in, I just want to give you one of my favorite anecdotes that are out of my last book, which is that Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson, at one point said, a man has the right to go outside his house with his children and not be humiliated in front of them. Yeah, exactly. Right? Humiliation is a crime, and I know I think we have at least one rabbi here, and Rabbi Ann probably can explain there are places in the Talmud that make it very clear that dignity is to be respected, and that to take away dignity, to humiliate someone, is as if you have shed them of all of their blood. Wow. Look at that. Look at the imagery. How powerful, right? I mean, a number of you are English majors. How powerful an image is that? The ancient rabbis, to humiliate another human being is as if you have stripped them of drained them of all of their blood. You know who knew this? Primo Levi. Take away their names, take away their possessions, take away their memories, take away their hair, take away everything that it means to be human. And you know what? They're dehumanized. And their sense of dignity is lost and maybe can never be recovered, never could be recaptured. So I'm leaving you with that thought. And again, I'll just rephrase just what Levi said, the demolition of a man, right? Not dead, but not alive, demolished. And for he who loses all easily loses himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rosenbaum, for your impactful words tonight. And as Professor Rosenbaum mentioned, dignity, nowhere in America's Constitution or federal laws will you find that word. It's an elusive concept that conjures up images of people with their chins up and their heads held high, at one with the world. I imagine this person when reading the compelling words of Thomas Jefferson, that all people are born with certain rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the proclamation that launched the American Revolution over 200 years ago. Is dignity not a condition of happiness? And how can people be assured of their ability to pursue happiness without the assurance of their own dignity as human beings? On a night like tonight, we are reminded of the necessity of human dignity and what is possible when it is absent, or worse, denied. More than 11 million people died under Hitler's reign, a figure that is almost impossible to comprehend. And in their honor, we have days of memory like this one, we have museums and memorials, and we have classes in our universities devoted to studying the genocide that began with the denial of dignity. But what separates these 11 million from the millions more killed under Stalin or under Mao? Some estimates attribute up to 7 million deaths occurred during the Cultural Revolution, yet we have no annual day of remembrance for them as we do here tonight. The difference, I believe, relates to our theme of dignity. For Nazi Germany, unlike Soviet Russia, and unlike the Chinese Communist Party, genocide was not a means to a political end. It was itself the end. The Nazis were unmatched in their conviction to kill without regard for the dignity of the human person. And the Holocaust, I believe, has such immense staying power because there is nothing more offensive to the most foundational and the most universal of human sensibilities than the outright denial of dignity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and thank you so much, Professor Rosenbaum, and all our wonderful speakers tonight. Professor Rosenbaum examines the place of free speech in the American mythos, describing how phrases like "sticks and stones may break my bones" establish a false precedent about speech from an early age. Since the initial conception of free speech in America, the fundamental right to expression has become sanctified and transformed to yield a very different meaning, a meaning that is dangerous to the protection of equal expression itself. Indeed, a long history of the First Amendment has seen it weaponized by its more rigorous proponents to isolate and marginalize certain viewpoints while amplifying and validating others, a process which promotes a certain type of speech at the expense of another. That is not to say that free speech must be regulated, or worse, thrown away, but that work is needed to understand how speech has been appropriated from its original meaning to elevate some ideas and degrade others. In the information age, we find speech in the throes of drastic evolution. The internet unites individuals for political good and assembly. It also ruins careers, sometimes with a single tweet or photograph from years past. It provides a platform for hateful movements that we largely consider dead to grow, and for companies like Amazon to gaslight the public about work conditions behind the guise of a Twitter profile. The ways in which we communicate have greatly expanded our potential audience. What we say is no longer exclusive to who can hear us alone. Any speech can be heard, any speech can be sought out, and any speech can be singled out for attack. Rosenbaum's investigation invites us to question the speech we're protecting for what it preserves, not the sentiment of free speech alone. Discourse and dignity are not just related, but inherently bound. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Thane. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Taryn, for all of your impactful and thoughtful words. The justification of Nazi programs against the Jews and the other so-called undesirables were strongly influenced by views about human dignity. The historical development of these views should be examined today because discussions of human worth and value are integral to all human endeavors. We should learn lessons from how human dignity came to be so distorted to avoid the repetition of similar distortions. We must ask ourselves why and how this could happen, and together work to prevent such atrocities from happening again. To quote Primo Levi again, he so memorably said, "It happened, thus it can happen again." To conclude our commemoration tonight, I'm going to invite first Rabbi Mel Gottlieb. I think first we're going to have Rabbi Cantor Eva Robbins, who's going to be chanting the El Mole Rachamim, and then we'll have Rabbi Mel Gottlieb close us off with the Kaddish.
El Mole Rachamim Shochein Bamramim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tohorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim Et Nishma Kol Achainu B'nei Yisrael צור החיים את נשמותיהם ויאנחו משכבותם בשלום ונאמר אמן.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yolama divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayed v'chol beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach v'yalam l'olmei almaya. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitramam, Yitnaseh, Yithadar, Yit'aleh, Yithalal, Shmei Dekudsha, V'richu. Leila Mikol Bechata, B'shirata, Tush Bechata, B'nechemata, Gamiran B'alama, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu, B'al Kol Yisrael, B'nei Tevel, B'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, B'al Kol Yisrael, B'al Kol Tevel, B'imru Amen. May God make peace on all the people of the world and all humanity. May we know no more shedding of blood and cruelty and the obviation of conscience. And we say, Amen.
Just to close off the event tonight, we're going to ask our technician to unmute everyone for just maybe 20 seconds. So think about those 20 seconds. If you want to just send greetings, a Yasher Koach, blessing. We've got 20 seconds starting now. Okay, here we go. Send those greetings out.
Yasher Koach, power.
Thank you so much.
Yasher Koach to my cancer.
Yasher
Thank you, everyone.
Shar Koach,
students.
South
Koach.
Very interesting.
I guess everyone.
Thank you to Professor Rosenbaum.
Thank you, everybody.
How are you?
Thank you.
Okay, here's another chance to hear the beautiful and haunting Holocaust lullaby that if you were here early enough, you heard Cantor Rabbi Eva Robbins singing it as you came in. If you came a little bit late, you'll have your chance to hear it right now. Peace, shalom, and Godspeed. Good night.
in finster